Today's episode is sponsored by For Your Health, and you're hearing their new song, In the Valley of Weeping, from their new album, This Bitter Garden, which is out now on 3 Dot Records. Catch them on tour supporting the album with Awake But Still in Bed, June 19th through July 8th. Check out tour dates, buy cassettes, vinyl, and more at foryourhealthoh.com. That's foryourhealthoh.com. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you about our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine, where you can go to sign up to read zines, get music sneak peeks, and so much more. That's patreon.com/humanmachine. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Kaoiken x4 by Process Sleep, featuring my pal Jackson Chang on vocals and guitar. The song comes from their new EP, Wherever You Think You Belong, You Probably Don't, which you can find on Bandcamp now.
It kind of just took me like on a path to get to where I am now. Musically, since I was young, I've always kind of been into music since I was in, say, elementary school, so maybe like age of 7. I want to say like Guitar Hero 3 it just came out. That was something that really kind of got me hooked when I was younger. But it didn't take until about I was in middle school to really start getting into things like more specifically like individual bands and like actual albums, like listening through entire pieces of work. I didn't start getting into listening to like a lot of hardcore and screamo and stuff until college. So I started that about maybe 5 years ago, around when the pandemic hit. Around then is kind of when things got very. It was definitely a space and time where you just kind of didn't have much to do, so music kind of just became very more prominent in life. Because all there really was to do for me was just either like play video games, do classwork, or listen to music. And then I remember I watched some video, like top scariest albums on the internet, and some of it was like a few like mathcore bands and stuff like that. And I started listening to that, and I was like, this is crazy, because I didn't really care much for stuff like grindcore and all that when my friends would try to show it me in high school. I was more into just like classic 80s hardcore punk, like Descendants, Black Flag, and stuff like that. But I think it took me getting into like the really weird stuff first to then kind of like go back and appreciate the stuff in between.
Mm-hmm. When you were like, you're talking about like in the beginning of the pandemic or whatever, were you were already playing guitar and stuff then?
Yeah, I started playing guitar back I want to say either last year of middle school or first year of high school. Okay. Back then, I'm learning like kind of like really simple stuff like Nirvana riffs, Blink-182 riffs, Sum 41, and then I started getting into like Tool and stuff, and that's how I started writing like weird, crazy riffs that my bandmates look at me like, "How did you write that?"
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. This I just saw I just saw a meme today, and it was like talking about Blink 182 was listed as oldies music. When 5 years ago you're just hearing Blink 182 or you're jamming Blink 182, what is someone who's coming to that kind of thing at a much later date than it originally, like what's your impression, like are you, because like in screamo or whatever, it's like that era, 99, 2000, that general era, that's looked at as like, this is like the goats, right? This is where
Yeah,
that's your legendary band status. um what is like, and it's wild too because like, especially like you were talking about like Black Flag and Descendants and all that stuff. Like I still love that stuff too, but it's wild because like those bands still play. And I
yeah,
don't know if there's like, is there a, I don't know if there's much of a, like, yeah, Guns N' Roses, I guess, plays now, but they didn't for 20 years. And I don't know, The Who is going on a last tour or something. But it's just a weird time, like musically, right? That like bands have existed for 30 years and stuff and are playing more or less the same music. Like what was your impression of like as opposed to what is happening on the radio 5 years ago, which I can't even speak to. I don't even know what rock music was on the radio 5 years ago. I'm trying to, did it, was there? But anyway,
yeah.
when you find Blink 182 like that, like what's the first impression? Is it like, this is the kind of stuff people used to play? Or is it like, people should play this? Like, this is cool? I mean, obviously you think it's cool, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I guess I really started getting into like all the pop punk kind of stuff. That was more kind of, I guess, around the time where I first started getting introduced to music. So I'm kind of like participating in that kind of sound when they're kind of like leaving their prime.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say when I started listening to them, that was probably like around the time that's like a few years after Self-Titled came out. But I had still kind of appreciated more like the older stuff, like Dude Ranch and Enema of the State, and like that time period from like 1998 to like 2004.
Yeah.
So it felt like I don't think I was so completely disconnected timeline wise, but it definitely felt like I had kind of missed out on kind of like being there then and now. It's like coming to a party just when like everyone's just about to leave. It feels like you get there like not before everything ends, but right when things are kind of starting to like die down and it's just chill.
Yeah.
Um.
I guess like,
So yeah. Oh, my bad.
no. I was just gonna say, I guess it's kind of like, I'm trying to ask this question in a way that makes sense, but like really where I'm coming from this at is like uh, when I was younger and like we, so music is like, now it's, everybody, like there's that term like time is a flat circle, but now music, it really feels that way because like there's no such thing as like, there's no such thing as like, you can't find this record anymore. Like you might not be able to get it physically, but like
Yeah.
there's no such thing. Like whereas like, excuse me, like when I was like just starting bands and starting to tour and stuff, it was like you had to know somebody that had that record. It wasn't going to be played on the college radio stations, or you weren't going to hear. So there was like this thing where like you there was like a more of a division between when like there was stuff that was coming out on Fat Wreck or whatever that was like a new label, and it was like you would like some of it, but some of it you're like, yeah, that's not my thing. Like I like that old sounding shit, and so you
Yeah.
have this like, but now it's like all eras of music are coming at you like simultaneously almost, and people are able to absorb these influences like just like that, and it's just really fascinating to me, like where like where people are able to come from and like what that does to like people's playing, their influences, like the way they form bands and stuff like that.
Yeah, I when music kind of started becoming a big part of my life was right, like, right when pretty much you have the access to just about every sort of genre at once.
Hmm.
So like back when I was in high school, I was listening to like a bunch of different genres at once, like where people from like those individual scenes would like look at me and be like, "Why do you listen to that?" Like I
Hmm.
would be listening to Metallica, and then I'd go off and listen to like Sum 41. Then I'd go off and listen to some like 2015, 2016 electronic indie artists like AOL Nation, 21 Pilots, or whatever. And it's like, not to say it's a guilty pleasure, but people definitely like whenever I mention like liking those bands are like, "That's weird. Why are you like that?" I'm like, I don't know. It's just it's they're good artists. I can't really defend or do anything about that. It's like whatever. That's just my taste.
Yeah. I yeah, I don't know. I definitely think that like one thing that is is strange to me is like I think that a lot of people like just over the last few years, I think that a lot of people have sort of like, at least that I know, like have sort more or less like broadened their like musical horizons or whatever. Like it's kind of like a, oh, I like all kinds of stuff, vibe that I get from most people. But the way that I think that that's strange is that there's so few bands that come out that where you're like, this is fucking weird. You know what I mean? Like it feels like
Yeah,
music should be weirder because like the Emmett Golden record's a pretty good example of that's what I would expect more music to be like, because
yeah,
it's bringing in all this stuff that like people are like not shy about, like they listen to this, they listen to that, they listen to that, but like it doesn't turn up in there. And I'm as guilty of that as anyone. Like I don't know, I try to be super weird and people are just like, oh cool, another screamo record,
yeah.
like um are there any times like where you bring something to practice like and you're just like, yeah, this ain't right. Like this is too weird. This is too one thing or too the other. Have you ever felt that way or?
Um, Unfortunately for me, my biggest influences in screamo are like three bands. And if I listed like those three bands, you would probably be like, "Yep, I can definitely hear that out of every possible influence."
Yeah,
But
so City of Caterpillar.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, them for sure. Oh, that might be four bands then. But for
Okay.
me, it's kind
That
of just
wasn't the
like
one you were thinking of. Okay.
yeah, the others are just like Masanera, Infant Island, and Ostraka.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Like
like
I
even
just
modern bands.
yeah, I just love like I like the big airy and just like absolutely brutal sounding instrumentals that those bands can have. But then you have like Infant Island and like Masanera having like these really nice, beautiful, like melodic soundscapes. It's just like that's what I think most modern screamo should sound like. There's a lot of bands, at least in the North Carolina scene, where people are just kind of writing metalcore and calling it screamo. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this is just Norma Jean. You guys are just reinventing Norma Jean.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that stuff is awesome. I think that like, you know, um I don't like that's not I don't see myself writing that kind of stuff. Like I love it. I love how it's I love how it sounds so tinkered with, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
It's like I love how everything sounds like the ideas they germinated, that they took their time and crafted them in specific ways with like input from one another that changed things and melded things, and and I could be off base with that. It could just be one person in Infinite Island just kind of doing this. It could just be Alexander just kind of doing this, and everybody's doing their own thing on top of it. But I could be totally wrong. But anyway, my point is like there's another side to that I like really like a lot, which is like the other side of the coin, which is just like a band that sounds like they couldn't be they couldn't be bothered to take all that time. And that doesn't mean like that doesn't mean that like they didn't think about it enough, or that they didn't like execute it well, but it's just like it was too like they couldn't. I don't know. My stuff probably doesn't come across that way, but that's the way I feel. Is I'm like I have to do this like right now. Like I don't know. And I'm trying to think of like other bands that like give me that impression or whatever, but like I certainly feel like I hear it a lot in Screamo specifically, where it's just like holy shit, like we've got to do this now. Like I don't know, but
yeah, I feel like the best stuff really just kind of requires like a little bit of having that patience, like for us, like we had some of those demos put up on Bandcamp for probably about a year and a half or maybe even 2 years since we released the EP. So all that stuff definitely took a while for us to kind of dig down and like write out all of those songs and make them into the fleshed out tracks that they are today.
Yeah. That's wild. It's like such a like there's a I don't know. I feel like the stuff that I write like there's a big like overarching like if there's a theme, it's hope. Like there's a hope to it, I think. I hope. What you're describing is like a faith. It's like you have this faith that like you're going to have the time to do this. You're going to like have the like patience to do this. You're going to have like the camaraderie, like the support of your band, and like that's awesome too. Like that's just a different way, I guess, of looking at it. And I don't know. It's I think that I don't ever think about how those kinds of like background kind of not like philosophies like you're thinking about it while you're writing your songs or whatever, but like those kind of like you don't think about how those emotions or like those like theories or whatever like reflect in the actual music, and that's really interesting. I don't know. Like I told you before we started, I was in like a weird mood, and I would probably go down like some strange things. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think like, because like that's what we're always doing that, right? Like punk is like it's like we're pissed, and it's like and you hear that and you're like, yeah, this music is pissed, and like. I don't know, there's all these like introspections that we don't even necessarily like. I mean, yeah, sure, for sure we do write a song because we're pissed. Like we do that even if we're hopeful or if we have faith that it's going to work out or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know. That's just it's interesting to think about like how that comes across like sonically, when that background program is running or whatever,
Yeah.
mean, this is like your first like proper band and stuff, right? Like where
Yeah,
you're touring and releasing music and stuff. So this is just like it wasn't like it wasn't like there was no trial and error because this wasn't the original formation of the band, right? So like
yeah, we've done like a few different lineups throughout the years, but this is kind of like the first lineup I would say this is like officially the band.
yeah. And that's like more or less because like finally everyone is on the same page like about what you all are trying to do musically and
Yeah,
stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, it definitely took a lot of like going through different people and even different sounds because we kind of started as like a post-hardcore kind of like Glassjaw rip-off band,
Mhm.
but I guess like through like a certain member changes, it just kind of ended up being like me and Izzy as like the only two original members. So we're just like, okay, well, we're both crazy into screamo. Let's just make this a screamo band. Let's just get it over with. And then we just kind of writing became so much easier once we like started working on the genre that we both knew and loved very well.
Yeah. Were you like before were you kind of you were aiming for something but you weren't like that wasn't necessarily what was natural to you or like was
Yeah,
it a
I would
matter
say
of like
so. Um, when I was trying to start the band, I kind of wanted something a bit more. I originally wanted something a bit more noisy and chaotic. I like around that time, I think I just started listening to something like Unsane, so I really wanted like that kind of noise rock sound.
mhm,
But when I started jamming with like all of my friends in process, we everyone kind of had a sort of different range of influence. So the most common middle ground was kind of like that post-hardcore style. So we kind of all stuck to that for a while until after like all the different members had like shifted, we were just like, okay, well, screamo time, screamo money, let's go.
how's that working out with you with you know your last like you had like a four day run, right?
It was originally going to be a 4 day run, but two of the cities didn't get back to us on what we were trying to organize. But then someone from Greensboro, they saw that we were playing in town like the day after, and they're like, "Hey, we know that like you guys are playing that day, but would you want to come do like a house show the day before?" And since we had like an entire gap day, and we didn't want to drive like 4 hours back to Greenville, and then drive 2 hours the day after just to play the other show, we're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll just stay in the same city and play a thing." And which we're really glad we did because the third day, which was supposed to be our last day, uh, it was like during an like we were doing an outdoor venue, and we looked at the weather app because it had been like kind of raining off and on and off in the past few days. And this was the one day it said it was supposed to be clear. So we're like, yeah, everything should be fine. We checked it like each hour, and then right when the second act, like they're sound checking, the rain starts coming down. So the show had to be canceled.
That sucks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the last show that we played. It was like there was the weather was like low chance of rain, and it was like all while we're like carrying drums out and all this, and it was just like it was like not even sprinkling. It was just like barely like it was like light mist almost, and we were
yeah.
just like it's gonna start pouring any minute, like what the hell. And like my friends in Diploid were over from Australia on tour with Trophy Hunt, and we are like, come on, you know, this is our friends that we did a split record with, like they're all the way over here from Australia, like come on, like we need this. And it never it was just like, you know, somebody was just like, all right, we're gonna, you know, we're gonna let them cook. And so we did get to play. It never it felt like any minute it was just going to downpour, and it just never did. It eventually just stopped the little drizzle or whatever when we had our show, and it was awesome. But
Yeah, it was such a bummer for us because like we weren't even mad that the show got canceled. I think we were just so sad that we didn't get to play
yeah, yeah.
because we just like been staring up at the sky for the past hour and we're just like, oh, please don't rain, please don't
Please, yeah,
rain.
yeah. And it always
Yeah,
sucks too, like when it's like, you know, the show is happening, like it's going on, and you're like, this band is playing, and you're just like, please just wait until after. And then it's like, of course it happens right before we play, you know, or whatever.
yeah,
Like, yeah, it sucks. That another, and you know, the other situation with that obviously is just like when you go someplace and it's like, so do the cops break up shows here often? And they're like, well, sometimes. And you're like, fuck. So, you
yeah,
know, you're like, how many bands are trying to play? And they're like, oh, you're fifth. And you're like, we're from 15 hours from here. Why are we fifth? You know,
yeah.
like,
It's like there's a chance we might not play
yeah,
tonight, but that's
you're
on you.
like, yeah. At some point, you're like, we were definitely not playing tonight. Like, what's plan B, you know? But, yeah, I don't know. It's, I mean, you know, that's when you're out there in the trenches, those are the risks you take. And, you know, hopefully hopefully the show, like, you know, with the way things are anymore, hopefully that's the worst that's going to happen, right? You know, it's
Yeah,
just like, oh, there was no show, you know, because it could be there's no show and also your gear got stolen, or also like
yeah,
you're arrested for no good reason, you know. But yeah, it's I don't know. I I miss getting out there and being in a van with people for 2 weeks and stuff like that. It's I don't know. Y'all all have to live vicariously for I'll live vicariously through y'all. Yeah, that's the way we're saying it.
yeah.
But
We're we're still like in the right before stages of really kind of getting out there and doing shows because we don't have a van yet. We're kind of just packing everyone into like my tiny little 4-door sedan, like putting all of our stuff packed into the trunk and like in the back seat and
mhm.
just making like short little runs work.
Yeah, borrowing cabs and shells and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was your first tour with like your tapes and stuff though? Like I know the CDs didn't get there until just like you had them maybe yesterday, or
Yeah,
but then the show.
it was the second day of the show. We had some friends go to like my apartment complex and pick up like our package, and they were planning on coming to the show anyways, but they came and brought those for us, and we're super thankful because
Yeah.
USPS they somehow just didn't see the fact that I put in that mail hold order, and they put it on the truck, and I was like, oh,
Ah,
I was planning perfectly for this too.
yeah.
I was like, okay, right before we leave, I'm just gonna stop by the post office and pick up the package.
Yeah.
Then I look at the tracking information. It's like
On
out for delivery.
delivery. Yeah.
I'm like, that's not what's supposed to happen. That's not
Yeah.
what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. Were you able to sell CDs and tapes at your shows then? Like what
Yeah, we sold definitely a good chunk of the CDs at least. We still have a few left, and I'm hoping we can get that out when we do like another tiny run in the next few weeks. But the tape sold out like surprisingly fast. Um, we got those tapes like maybe a few weeks earlier, so we
Mhm.
played a few shows beforehand. We had like maybe 8 copies left when we played that big fest with Versus Self, and we pretty much sold out of those like the first day we played.
Yeah. What was that show like? You said big, like you mean like were there a lot of bands or was it just like a ton of people, both things?
Yeah, it was both. I like that was probably the first big fest we'd ever been a part of. It. We played a lot of smaller ones. Even Mac Rock was still pretty big, but I guess that's more like a wider scale, like across multiple locations.
Mhm.
But this fest is like in one place over 2 days, like 10 to 12 bands per day, and there's just like a huge crowd of people. And for some reason, we got asked to play both days. And we're just like, really? Us? Both days? I mean, you've got some killer bands on this lineup here, but yeah, sure, we'll play both. And then, yeah, I guess people liked our set enough to buy the tapes that we had.
That's awesome. Did anyone else play both days?
Yeah, there was one other band, but they kind of got asked like spur of the moment because like everything was running ahead of schedule like perfectly. Like I don't think I've ever seen a festival go as well as ever did
That's
on
awesome.
that day. Like they were ahead of schedule. They were like, okay, we have all this downtime before the next acts go on. Let's get this band to play again.
So when
So
you played both days, did you just like same set both days, or?
uh we I think the first day we played the Police cover we did for the Grave Neighbors comp.
Yeah.
Um I think day two, I don't think we played anything extra. We were gonna do a new song that we had written, but I think we just couldn't do it in time. Yeah, we were like the only like confirmed scheduled band to play both days.
Yeah, I'm curious how does the Police cover go over like in the middle of like a pretty different sounding set, or like not necessarily saying that it was in the middle, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's like we we kind of we kind of messed up that song so badly to the point where it's like this is not the Police.
Well, yeah, yeah,
You guys just wrote a different song and called it Message in a Bottle.
yeah, yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, it uses like the same chords and it's the same lyrics, but it's definitely like you could show this to Sting and be like, "What have you people done?"
Well, he would probably sue you, but yeah, I was when you were saying you were gonna do that, I was like curious. I was like, how are they gonna play the like little arpeggio parts or whatever like fast? How's that gonna be?
Yeah,
But yeah, y'all.
we just made those into chords,
Yeah, you're just
and it's
like yeah,
very painful to play live.
yeah. You're just like we're not doing that. We're doing chords out of it. Let's go. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it doesn't sound like yeah, it's not night and day, like, but I still feel like yeah, it's obviously not one of y'all's songs, is
yeah,
what I was getting at, and I don't know if sometimes that's like a a, a thing that people ever remark on, like I don't know, but the only time people ever said anything about us doing a cover or whatever was it actually was not a cover. People were like, "Did you play Tiger Suit at some point?" And we're like, "No, no, we didn't." That was just like that last song. Was that Tiger Suit? No, that was just one of our songs.
yeah.
It's I don't know. It's funny. I there definitely is a song now that we have that I was like, I'm gonna rip off Tiger Suit a little bit, but that wasn't at that time. That song wasn't written. We weren't playing that song, but
Yeah, like someone recently just made me like told me that one of the songs that we have like the intro sounds exactly like one of the tracks off of Jerome's Dream, like their third LP. And I don't think I had ever even listened to that song because I just didn't really care for that record when I
the
heard it.
self-titled one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I don't
And
know.
when I heard it back, it's like, oh, this is the exact same intro. How did I do that?
Huh. Yeah.
And I never even really listened to that record that much. Like maybe once all the way through, but I just didn't really care for it because it just sounded like Presents 2. And
I
like
don't.
Presents is great. I didn't like the vocal style. I'm sure that's like you either love it or you hate it. But instrumentally, it's a perfect record.
I just don't. Um, yeah, I'm not. I don't want to get into a whole Jerome's Dream thing.
Yeah,
I've been outspoken about the band in the past, and I think people expect me to be negative or whatever about them. And we played with them. They're nice. Like they were good live. But what I think about what I think about that record is just that there's their previous stuff is from an era where when you record a record now, it just doesn't sound like that anymore. And
Yeah.
and I think that, and this isn't saying that they should have written their record any differently or recorded their record any differently, but I just think that there, if you write a record more or less the same way you did 20 years ago and you record it the way we record a record now, it doesn't work the same way.
Yeah.
And I think that that is my problem, in a
Yeah, for
nutshell.
sure.
Whereas that newest record that they released, like, that sounds like it was written with the way it was going to be recorded in mind. To me, it sounds like the riffs and what the guitars were going to sound like. It sounds like everything was like, we know what this is going to be like. And I think that's the distinction, like,
Yeah.
and
y-
yeah, cuz you just, I that the thing about their old records that I just, there are still bands that can do this. There are still bands that, like, when they record it sounds like this, but it's just like there is something that is so difficult to pull off, like, in modern recordings, where it's just like the feedback and the noise elements sound
Oh,
so
yeah.
unhinged, right?
Yeah, the feedback on that new record, it's I still kind of don't know how they do it. I think it's because they use 2 amps,
Oh, I don't
but
know. I mean, but it's like, yeah, but it's just like the very, like, that was my thing with them, like, on their old stuff, is like, that's what drew me to them. I was like,
yeah.
when they go dun dun and there's supposed to be just this nothing in between, it doesn't sound like that. It's like there's just, it goes dun dun and there is so much noise that is just like unfiltered and just raw and just like, that's what it felt like to be in the room, and that's what you're going for on a record. And then, like, that's hard to do now because it's just like you're recording everything this certain way, and maybe the engineer is even like, oh, I can cut all that noise in between, and it's like,
Yeah.
sometimes, like, and I'm not saying anything about, like, I've only listened to that one other, it just wasn't for me, right? So I've only listened to it once, so I'm not saying this is what they did or anybody thought or whatever. I'm just saying it's like, you know, it's like, that's why, like, why I listen to old Usurp Synapse and stuff too. It's like, they don't sound like that anymore, and that's fine. And they know, like, we probably shouldn't sound like that anymore. It's just not the same. Like, their old records to me are so special because, like, of the way they sound, and you you absolutely cannot record those songs now. They wouldn't sound like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's it, from being in a band standpoint. Like, if you had a record that you were like, that really sounds like shit. I wish we could do that again. Like, I get that, right? And so, like, anybody that's like, what, like, why are you like I think the best screamo 7-inch of all time, like, pound for pound, song for song, like, lick for lick, melody for melody. I think the best is the KMB Communique 7-inch, and I guarantee you that band is like, that sounds like dog shit. Like,
Yeah.
but you are not going somewhere and getting that recording now. Like, it's so raw and, like, honest, and the songs are amazing, and it sounds like just a mental breakdown. And, like, from what I have heard, and this is just like 20 years of the rumor mill, I'm not far off, and and like yeah, you can't go and record that 7-inch and it'll sound like that now. Like it just won't. And I don't know, that's such a like I'm not saying that it is I'm not saying it's better. Like there there is a certain like there is a certain like part of our genre or like punk in general where we try to like walk back to like you try to make a recording sound shitty. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
there's a certain part of that like that happens. You know what I mean? You try to make it sound blown out. You try to make it sound like whatever, you know. But it's just not gonna happen in it, and that's not like for better or worse in my opinion. It's just for what that was when it happened. Like you can't go home again.
It feels like some of these older bands that are coming back, like some of them are kind of hits and misses, but when they hit, it feels like they hadn't really left in like the amount of time they've been gone for, like either 10, 20 years or whatever. Like Sea of Caterpillar, they dropped that new record out of nowhere, and it really just felt like they hadn't stopped playing at all, and like they hadn't stopped writing. It felt like a natural progression of their sound, but at the same time, it's like you would have thought this band had just released a record like maybe 5 or 2 years ago instead of like the 10 to 20 year gap that it's been.
Mm-hmm.
And with Jerome's Dream, like the Gray in Between sounded like it should have been that instead of what LP sounded like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also like they've got Sean from Loma Prieta in the band now,
Yeah.
and so I think it's a lot. It reminds a lot of people of Loma Prieta as well, which makes sense, you know. Um, but yeah, it's I don't know. It is weird. I don't you know I don't know a ton of bands that like have come back from something like that and done it as well as City of Caterpillar. You know, Portraits of Past, like they had that Cypress Dust Witch EP several years ago that came out well after they had disbanded, and that didn't miss a beat for sure.
Yeah, that Rise of Spring cover they did recently, like that still sounds like it's just them. They have not gone anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild. I hope that they write some more songs of their own. That'd be very cool. I don't know if
Yeah, I
they've
think I
said
think they've
anything.
definitely alluded to it,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
yeah,
really hope that something comes out soon.
yeah. That'd be awesome. Um, yeah, but so it's like, yeah, we're talking about like, you know, old shit. But you know, y'all are just getting started, and like you said, um, this is kind of like your first, like, get in the van and go, sort of moments, and like, you had like some setbacks or whatever, but how do you come back from like your weekend? Like, are you feeling like more energized? You're like, let's get right back out there. Like, are you like, damn, we got to write some more songs now. Like, I'm pumped. Like, what's the how's everybody feeling after all that?
It's like the first hour I get home, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I have to stop. But like once that initial like tiredness wears off, like 30 minutes later, it's like, All right, what are we playing again next week? All right, cool. But yeah, it's super weird to be able to just go out and do this kind of stuff with like minimal planning. Like a lot of people have booking agents now and stuff, and it's like I can see the benefit of that, but at the same time, it's so much more. And I'm not like a thrill chaser or anything, but it's so much more fun and just kind of spur of the moment to go out and like plan these out ourselves. Like, okay, let's hit up this band from this state and be like, hey, what kind of promoters should we talk to? Do you guys want to do a show with us in a few months? And then it's just kind of you just have to do it yourself and pray it all goes well. But when it goes well, it's like the greatest feeling in the world. Like, wow, how did we pull this out of our asses?
Yeah. When now you're talking about like you sort of like a seat of your pants kind of thing to like just like contacting people and stuff like that. But like, as far as when you're actually out on the road, is it the same kind of thing, or do you all like research like this is where we want to eat in this town and stuff like that? Like, well, I want to go to this music store, to this comic book shop, or like, how do y'all do the stuff other than playing the show when it comes to being on the road?
There's like a few places we'll look at and try it out. Like for me, I'm a huge record nerd. I collect records. I work at a record store. So whenever I go out anywhere, I love to like go peruse through like a store's hardcore and punk and metal section. And like I'll find some cool stuff out there sometimes. Like I just got a bootleg of Tools Anima that I've been hunting for one of those for a while now.
Yeah.
And I also got a Kolara that split. I don't remember who it's with, but it's like a 10-inch record. And that was super sick. It was only like $5. Like, yeah, I'll get that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm it's wild because like I remember being on tour at one point, like, and like I'm all the way out in California and somebody was like, what are y'all doing like tomorrow or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know, you know? And they
Yeah,
were like, what? And proceeded to show me like pictures on their phone of like a tour that they were on several years before that, where they had a printed out like itinerary, like booklet.
yeah, like a vacation guide.
Yeah, and I was like, I mean, this person, it didn't surprise me from this person, but like, but it was just, it was. I was like, do more people do that kind of thing, or am I the outlier where I'm just like, I I'm so there's a there's part of me that's like the tabs are always running and there's always something happening upstairs, like where I'm like, I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that,
Yeah,
but there's another part of me that is just like, I'm just stoked to be here, like whatever
yeah,
we're gonna do is cool, and and that's how I am usually on the road. It's just like, whoa, where do you want to go, like where
yeah,
and and or I'll just be somewhere and I'll just we have the luxury of just like being in Austin, Texas, and being like,
yeah,
Google Austin, Texas comic book stores and finding
yeah.
three of them, or record stores, or or you just ask somebody the day before, But yeah, I just um, I remember you were talking about records. It's like, I mean, I've known about Reckless in Chicago like a million for like forever, but like it's funny because like the one of the last times when I bought stuff at a record store on a tour, it was like very early in the tour and we were playing Chicago and we went into Reckless, and it was when Sunbather came out. And
Oh yeah,
I never heard them. I didn't know anything about them, but people could not shut up about this record. And they had it at the store. I bought a Sunbather and I bought the Meli 12-inch. And Sunbather was like $20. And The Miele 12-inch was $5, and I was like, the Miele 12-inch, like I loved it like forever. I never owned it, but I knew of it and loved it, and I've never I listened to Sunbather one time and I was like, this isn't for me. And so it's like that's my like $20, $5. This Miele 12-inch, like
Yeah.
I will never sell this. This will sit in my house until I am dead. Um, $5, $20, you know? It's wild. But when we
Yeah,
were
like
like talking before, you know, we were yeah, just like real quick, like this is the second time that we've had some of these parts of this conversation because
yeah.
my computer died. That's why there was no new episodes for a couple weeks. So thank you for being patient and rescheduling with me and having this conversation again, some of which may be deja vu, but like I said before,
Yeah.
I am also very weird and we'll go down these rabbit holes, which is can be fun for some people. And later on, I'm just always like, wow, I really just should shut up sometimes. But anyway, um, when we were talking before, you know, we were saying how like you all, you know, you reworked some of these songs and how, you know, it was just the time to put these songs together and record them and release them. And that like, since then you've been working on new stuff and everything like that. So like, you know, is working on new material the short term goal now, or like is it just like, well, now that we've got this out, like we want to play as many shows, you know, as we can, because you know it sounds like you're running out of merch. So
Yeah.
so what's the plan as far as like where's the band at as far as like, is it writing time or is it playing time or is it like a little bit of both?
I think we're definitely in that little bit of both stage because we're definitely in still in the little promotion era of this run of shows, like getting all this quote unquote press and playing all these shows, and with like the new EP that's out, it's we're definitely looking forward to writing again. But at the same time, it's just been such a pleasure to be able to go out and do all this stuff that like a more like well it's established band would do. And it's like we just got here. We don't know what we're really doing, but yeah, we'll talk. We'll do interviews. We'll play shows out of state. We've only done that once before, but yeah, if people hit us up, we're glad to do it.
Yeah.
But it just feels weird how we thought it would be such a leap to get to do all these things, but really it kind of just took us releasing something and then people getting eyes on it to
Yeah.
just be able to go do these things now.
Why did you feel like it was going to be a leap? Is it, does it have anything to do with just like the the sheer amount of music that's out there, or is it just like because you're just like, yeah, we're just like from this little area and you know, like nobody would pay attention to that right away, or
Yeah, it's really both of those, honestly, because I mean, for one, Greenville, North Carolina, it's not a big music scene. It's kind of very tight, close knit, but it's definitely growing. But we don't get too many like more well known bands out here. But the bands that we do get out here, like they end up becoming huge, and that's really cool. But yeah, at the same time, when we release the EP, it's like, well, here's another screamo record out into the world of an already kind of growing genre, and to get like the notoriety that it's gotten now, it just we just kind of like have to step back and be like, how how did it get this big? We were expecting maybe 1,000 listens like for the first like 6 months. But then we started like reaching like 2,000 within the first 2 months, and we're like, okay, that's way better than we thought we were doing. It's a little scary, but like we're incredibly thankful for like just the amount of attention it's gotten.
Yeah. Well, I happen to know that somebody who's in the band Seisha liked it a lot. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Yeah. Whoever runs the hundreds of owl account on Instagram hit us up and said they really liked it,
oh yeah,
and that just blew our minds. We're like, what?
that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. I got a text. I got a text the day that we put it up, and it was like it was pretty straight to the point. It was just like process of sleep. Holy shit, you know. It was that kind of thing, you know. But it was like I know, right? You know. Yeah. Um, so I'm glad that people were excited about it. I'm glad that people, you know, are picking up the release from you at shows, and um it's weird. I feel like it. I feel like in like Coma Regalia has been a band since 2010, and 2010 I really think was like this is like 2010. This is Spotify and Bandcamp like taking off, like
Yeah.
right around there. And we used to go play shows, and like maybe we just sucked. I don't know, you know. Maybe we still suck, but like we used to go play shows, and like nobody would buy anything, and like people were listening to our music. Like you can tell, you can see. Like when I
Yeah.
used to pay more attention to that kind of thing, like you could tell people were listening to your music and stuff. But you go and play a show, and nobody was buying stuff, and like I didn't feel like we were the only band. Like, just we'd be at a show and like we'd be next to the other bands at the merch tables, and people was just not buying stuff. And then at some point, like, you know, I started hearing like, oh yeah, like people go, you know, hit up the merch table and like people buy all kinds of stuff. And our last few shows, like, it's like I had at our last show, I had people come up to me because, like I said, it was sprinkling. So, like, I had my zines with me and they were under the table. Just, you know, they can't get wet, right? They're paper.
Yeah.
um, and like records are in bags and stuff. So it's safer, right? But I had people come up like and be like, "Do you have your zines with you?" Like they knew about my zines, and I'm like, "People know about my zines too." Like, I wish they bought them from me online, you know. But
Yeah.
like, it was like this is so cool. Like, so it's this weird thing like where like at first people were like, music is online now. We can listen to everything online. Like we don't have to buy it. And now it's like the actual thing that somebody made is cool again, you know. And I think that's awesome because like yeah, I mean that's like I don't know, like I know that we all get to that point where we just have like too much stuff, right? But like
Yeah.
when you make something and your thing is like in your hands and you're like holy shit, like that's great, that's cool, like
Yeah, when
you know.
I when I first opened the package with the CDs and I picked them in my hand, I'm like, this is insane. This just I'm holding a copy right now, and just looking at this thing, it's like I made this.
Yeah,
That's super weird. Like I've held CDs of bands and stuff before, and it's like I I didn't know I would ever feel this feeling for myself, and it's so cool getting to do this.
yeah. Well, you have this idea, right? Like you know, Nirvana's a touchstone for a lot of people, you know. So you have
Yeah,
this idea of this of these guys in this studio smoking cigarettes, and there's three guys on the mixing board like telling them like this sounds cool, this doesn't sound cool, and them doing like days and days of takes. And you know you have this whole idea of 3 years of playing in the nastiest clubs, you know, known to man. And then like and then this album comes out and you're holding this CD, and there's this artwork in it, and you have this idea of like all of these things that had to happen for you to hold that in your hand. And when you're doing it yourself, a lot of those things are the same, but like it's just that's just what you're doing, right? So
yeah,
it's not like you don't necessarily every step of the way isn't like burned into your like consciousness. It's not like you're looking at this and you're like, how much work this was to get here or whatever, and you can, and that's good because you can just look at it like my baby, like
Yeah.
like my baby, yay, like this is great, this makes me so happy. I don't have to worry about like all the flat tires, while we were uh halfway to Texas, or whatever, you know but yeah, it's awesome, and people love the EP, and I love the EP, and I was happy to help with that in any way that I could. Um, but yeah, so like, you know, playing shows is what's up, and hit y'all up for people should hit you up if they want you on their podcast or to do a interview or for their site or whatever. Um, do you have any plans for like what you'd want to do next? Like, are you thinking like, okay, the EP was this, now we want to do some splits or an LP? Like, what's, as far as like when you get there, what's your next like goal as far as like writing songs and stuff like that?
The only thing firmly planned is split with our homies, Abuse Repression from Michigan. We've got pretty much almost everything written out for it. We just had to go and record. They're also in the same boat, I think. We're hoping to have that out by the end of the year at least. But other than that, we're also trying to hopefully start writing and recording an LP towards the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that's 100% firm just because we have to take the time to write out all the tracks and everything. Because we kind of want to do something a little bit on the bigger scale, like maybe like a 12 to 13 song thing. Because I like when screamo records are short, but I love when screamo records are just kind of long. Like just one big release of a bunch of different tracks. It's so cool to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I was like reflecting on some things the other night, and I was like, yeah, I think that our most solid, like, each one of these songs more or less stands on its own, but yet, like, the narrative is like still there, is our longest one. I was like, yeah, there's not like there. I don't know. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't change anything about this record. Like, I wouldn't change anything about any of our records. Like, that's not what I'm getting at either. But some of our records are. It's like this song is like, this song is part of a bigger thing, and not so much like it. We have a lot of like interlude kind of songs and intro kind of song, where it's like this song exists to set up the next thing, and like, yeah, definitely like having this thing where it's like each song is like the start and the end of the idea, is a different approach, and not necessarily saying that that's what you were thinking either, but like the length of it, I was like, I think that plays into it, and I don't know, it's weird. Like, I don't know if people even think about stuff like that, like when they're writing songs. Like, do you, like, when you're putting a song together, do you just sort of, is it all feeling it out? Is it all like, we start and then we just kind of all know when the song's done? Or is it like, do you examine the song after the fact and be like, you know what, I feel like this needs a little something more?
Yeah, well, when we write, it's usually either me or Izzy kind of like making. We like fully write out our guitar parts and then do like a very basic either like drum beat or bass line to give the others and be like, this is kind of like the rough format. Don't copy it exactly. Maybe follow it as a guideline, but do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll just kind of like jam those songs out for like a few weeks, and then slowly add more or take away until it gets to a point where it's like, yes, this is exactly how it is going to sound. There's nothing we can change or add about this now. It is
Mm-hmm.
the perfect point of what it should be.
Yeah. So you said take away. So this is like, I think that I understand that more than other things because there's definitely songs that we have where I'm like, we are not doing that 24 fucking times live. you
Yeah,
know, like we're gonna cut that to 12, or whatever. Like, is that kind of where it's where like playing the songs over a longer period of time is like crucial for you, like to where you're like you see something and you're like, nah, that doesn't have to. We can get there faster.
yeah. We've definitely cut like a few sections shorter for some songs originally.
Yeah.
Um, Off the top of my head, though, I think I think the outro for the track "Gone Forever," which is the one with the Chinese characters,
Mm-hmm.
that was I think that outro was originally a lot longer, but
Mm-hmm.
I think we kind of shorted it down to like kind of a more like a short and sweet kind of ending,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it used to go on a lot longer.
Yeah. Well, you
But
can
we
always
also
play it
have
longer, right?
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
whenever we
like,
play songs live, we are just like, all right, how much longer do we want to play with this song?
yeah.
We're bored.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. Sometimes like we've been working on something, and and Jason will be like, "How many times does this go?" And I'll be like, "Oh, I don't really know," and we'll play. And after a couple times, Jason will be like, "It was this many times," and I'm just like, "We did it the same way, like all three times," and he's like, "Yeah, all three times we played it this many times," and so. That's a easy one, right? Because you're just like, well, I guess if it felt like six and we played it six all three times,
Yeah.
then it's six. Um, is it is there sometimes when you are like, let's try it four times, and it's just like, nah, it should be longer, or like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's really just kind of it's hard to kind of convey that thing to my bandmates sometimes, because two of them are kind of like trained in a like an education sense, and I'm just over here like, I don't even know the names of chords.
oh
I just
right.
know I know what fret it is, but I
So
couldn't
you
tell you.
so you have a different term for like, or you have a different way of counting too, because that happens to me and
Yeah.
Jason sometimes too, where it's like Jason would be like, that was three times, and I'm like, no, that was six, or it's
Yes,
actually
because
usually the
yeah.
reverse. Yeah,
Yes, because I view like certain sections, like to me that's like a bar, and I know it's not what a bar is,
yeah,
but in my
right,
head it's like, okay, if there's this many variations of like this section, I'll cut that off and be like, okay, this
yeah,
is a section, and
yeah,
this is a section. And they're like, no, that's like three or four bars.
right,
Like you aren't getting it. You aren't
yeah,
getting it.
yeah. If I'm doing something that has like four chords and it's just like, one, two, three, four, um, then it's like we'll be on the same page because I'll be like, this is four times, But if I'm
Yeah,
doing something where it's like there's like 12 chords in this and they're moving all over the place or whatever, like generally speaking, I'll be like, we're gonna do this three times, and Jason's like, nah, that's six times, or we're gonna do this four times, and Jason's like, that's eight times, or whatever, because he's counting it like right, and I'm counting how many times I repeat this cycle, which isn't
yeah,
necessarily, the thing. And I don't know. I don't I don't think oh, excuse me. Oh my goodness. I haven't talked this much in like 3 weeks. um I don't think there's a wrong way to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with like not knowing how to do it and just doing it your own
yeah,
way. And I don't think there's anything wrong, obviously, with like learning how to do it right and doing it right. As long as you can communicate with each other, that's all that matters. But I personally just like, I don't want this to be demystified for me. Like I love
yeah,
like just being like, I love being just a dumb girl that's just like, you know, I can't believe that I touched these strings and they make these sounds come into the air. Like I love that part. I love
Yeah,
just like being like I love like looking outside and not knowing what kinds of plants those are and just being like, you know, and I mean I do learn. I do know that this one is like the, you know, I'm you know, I do learn, but I love just looking at something or hearing something and experiencing something and just not knowing and that to be like good enough for me. Just to be
yeah,
like, yeah, this fucking rules, you know? I don't know.
yeah. Music theory isn't real. Big music invented it to write more chorus,
Well, it's
verse
just called a
songs.
theory too, right? I mean, it's just a
Exactly.
theory. So, yeah, but I mean, I'm totally in awe of people like Tilly from, you know, Home is where it's like she just like fucking rips on guitar and knows everything about guitar. I'm in awe of that, and I'm like, more props to you. And I'm also just like, that's not me, you know? And
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's some place for everybody. Like, there's some place for that. There's some place for people in the middle, and then there's just some place for, you know, airheads like me. Just
Yeah.
you know.
It's like Izzy will she will like ask me like what chord is that? Is it like a diminished major seventh or whatever? And I'm just like, you made those words up. Those aren't real. I'm playing 503 on the fretboard.
Yeah, my cousin and I, we used to have like we used to just have like uh a two like we would just be like, that's A5 or that's E5. And what we meant by that was I'm playing a bar chord. I'm playing the E bar chord on the fifth fret. Like my index finger is on the fifth fret. Or I'm playing the A bar chord and my index finger is on the fifth fret.
Yeah.
And because he had to write, he would like to write his stuff down. He was the bass player. So he'd be like A5, E5, you know, E7, E3 or whatever, you know. And so we came up with that way of writing music. And that was always like, you know, so later I'd play with people like, is that a C minor? And I'd be like, I'm on the third fret.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I don't
um,
know what that is. Like I
and
can play it.
yeah,
I couldn't tell you the name of it.
over time, like just hearing people say, yes, that's a C. Like, so now I know, like,
Yeah.
you know, when you're doing the thing, when you're doing the my index finger is the string below, and my, you know, middle finger is the string above, and they're one fret apart, and they're around the third fret, then I know that's a C. I don't know what kind of C based on wherever my other fingers are, but then if I jump up to the top strings, I know that's G. Like, so just hearing people that I know what these things are, I'm like, but baby, let's not go any further. That's as far as I
Yeah.
want to take it, you
You
know?
just kind of end up learning everything through like osmosis,
Yeah,
but
I like let's
it's just like I don't need to learn all this.
yeah, let's leave it at that, you know? Like basically the the my learning starts and ends with the first two chords of Every Shining Time We Arrive by Sunny Day Real Estate. You know, it's like,
Yep.
there we are. But yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing what y'all do next. You know, whether that's, you know, the split with Abuse Repression. You were saying before that you were gonna play shows with them, or did you just play shows with them?
We are going to.
Okay.
They're doing like a southeast kind of run in August,
Okay.
and we're super looking forward to finally being able to like play with them in person.
Hell yeah. And what other kinds of shows do you have coming up that you can talk about? Or is it all just
Um,
kind of like we're trying to do, you know, we're going to be a part of that, but nothing's set?
well, the band Aether Realm, like they're kind of like a power metal or they're whatever kind of like Viking type band. They're playing in our city because like that's where they're from. They're doing like their final run of shows since their guitarist just joined Cradle of Filth.
Oh, wow.
So they're doing like a tiny little farewell show here in our city, and we somehow got onto that. It's like, all right, time to show these metalheads what screamo is.
When is that?
Uh, oh gosh, that is in August as well, I
Okay.
believe.
So
Yeah,
is
other
that
than
like
that,
sort of your next couple of things is in August?
we're really just we have like a few things booked throughout each month, surprisingly.
Okay.
But in terms of something out of state, I don't think we have too many. I think we have one in Greenville, South Carolina, coming up next month. Um, in October, we're trying to plan out a tiny little run. I've been talking with Mark from Masnera about trying to get some stuff booked up there.
Awesome.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
Boise's fun. Yeah.
yeah, I would love to play with Masnera one day. They're like my biggest inspiration of all time, I think.
Yeah. Um so you do have more shows this month, or like not until next month? Like where are those shows?
Yeah, we got even more shows this month. We're gonna do one in Norfolk, Virginia, and then another back in Greensboro. So we're gonna make it up to all the people that missed our show.
Okay, what
Yeah,
dates?
last night, 20th and 21st.
Okay. So 20th is in Norfolk.
Yes, if I'm
Okay.
looking at my calendar correctly.
Well, they should just hit up the Instagram or whatever, right? And you'll
Yeah,
have
we've
the
got
dates
we've got
there.
all of our
Yeah.
shows listed on
Yeah.
there.
Awesome. Well, I'm real excited for y'all to, get out there and get your CDs into people's hands, and keep writing great songs and stuff. Um, uh, is there anything else that you wanted to chat about before we take off? It's, this chatting for an hour at a time, and being on the yaps cycle is a
I
little
know.
little out for me now. But I was really happy to chat with you again. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that we should cover? Or?
Oh gosh, I feel like I could just do this for like hours, honestly. If
Right.
there's ever if there's ever an opportunity for like a 2 or 3 hour episode, I would be there. But
Oh, what would I talk about then? If I just
oh gosh,
if you took the brakes off, um,
oh I could talk about the screamo shit for years probably.
for sure.
But I guess the one biggest thing that I wanted to talk about last time that I kind of forgot yet again was at least for me, I a few of my songs I've written about the kind of Asian American experience, and that to me is kind of a big deal because there's a handful of Asian American bands in screamo that at least I know of.
Hmm.
Like I'm still so depressed about Hawak not being a band anymore. Like we got Mao out of it, but
Uh huh.
still, like that hurt me so badly. But I'm glad that I can write about that kind of stuff and kind of hopefully get more people in that scene to kind of show up and do some stuff.
Hmm.
But oh yeah, I there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world right now. But even to just kind of have something out there that unites people, like that's good for us. Like whether it's like me being like mixed Asian American or like Isabel being a trans woman,
Hmm.
it's we're just happy to be able to get something out there that can resonate in people and at least unify people and with how bad times are right now.
And that was my conversation with Jackson Chang. Thank you so much, Jackson, for taking the time to chat with me. Thanks to all of y'all for listening wherever you are as well. Over the last couple weeks, the computer that I used to record this show and everything else I've done for the last 15 years melted down pretty much completely, and it's taking me some time to get everything back running correctly and the way that I'm used to. Thanks so much to my pal Aster for all of her help during this. Until next time, take care and do good things.